Welcome to the channel, everybody. On today's video, I'm going to show you how to clean up your headlights and make them look brand new again. With age, what happens is the plastic on the headlights starts to deteriorate with the UV rays and the weather. Now this one, as you can see, it's dulled pretty bad all the way around. You can almost looks like it's cracked, but that's usually just on the surface. This side is much cleaner than the other side. Makes me think it was changed at one point. Anyhow, you can do this to any vehicle. This happens to be a Range Rover. I will go ahead and remove the grill since it's super easy to do on these. And another thing we'll do is we'll tape around the bumper because we'll be using a buffer to clean these and sander. And we don't want to scratch up the surrounding area like the hood. Hood obviously we can open up. But we will tape all the edges on the paint so we don't mess that up. So let's get that done. But before we get started, I do have a request. If you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. I have the front grille off, the hood is open, and I've taped around our headlight. So as we're cleaning the headlight, we don't mess up or scratch the paint on the bumper or the fender. Now I've done that to both sides. Now the first thing you want to do is take a rag, glass cleaner, and wipe off the dirt. Now if I get real close, you can see the dullness here. It may be hard to see on the camera, but you can completely see it here. So once you have your headlight wiped down, you want to go ahead and wet it down. I have some water and a little bit of a dish soap in there. We'll go ahead and wet it down really good, and we're going to wet sand this headlight. Now I have this Orbital sander here with a foam pad on it, so it's a bit flexible, with a 400 grit sandpaper on it. I'll go ahead and sand the whole headlight, getting the big scratches out with this. Now depending on how bad your light is, you might be able to use a little bit of a rougher or a smoother sandpaper. As you're sanding, you want to keep spraying it, making sure it stays wet. And you want to keep the RPMs on the sander kind of on the low side so you don't burn through the plastic or getting it too hot. So we're going to keep doing this. We'll wipe it and see how it looks. Basically, the idea behind sanding it is getting all the big crack lookings and the haze off of it is the main thing. Now you'll see it looks like we might be like scratching it, but that's not a big deal. Once we buff it out, that'll all clean up. If you don't have a sander, you can certainly do this by hand. Take one of the foam pads and wrap your 400 grit sandpaper around it. You can definitely do it by hand, it just takes longer. So after sanding it with the Orbital sander, now I'm going to take that same sandpaper. Since my light is not completely flat, it has a bunch of contours in it that I can't reach with the sander. I'm going to do those by hand, and the edges that you can't get close to with the sander, we'll do those by hand. And then we'll repeat the whole process with a little bit of a finer sandpaper. So we started with 400, we can move to 600 and then 1200, and you can get finer and finer. So once you are done sanding, hand sanding, orbital sanding, however you did it, you can wipe it down, and you can see the light itself looks super hazy at this time, which is normal. This time we'll take a buffer and buff it. After sanding it for a few minutes, getting all the big scratches and the haze off, I decided not to go with the finer sandpaper. I just went ahead and used a rubbing compound. This is a Super Duty rubbing compound from 3M with the pad on my buffer, and that cleaned it up really well, as you can see. Now I'll go ahead and hit it with a little bit of a finer rubbing compound. That'll clean it up further, getting all the scratches out. The other headlight, which is actually in way better condition, I'm not even going to bother sanding it. We'll just buff it out and see how it looks. So here's how our headlight looks now that it's all buffed and cleaned out. All the tape is off. This is the one I didn't sand. I just buffed it with a rubbing compound, and we'll go over all the products I use, and I'll leave those in the description for you. But the one I sanded, maybe you can tell on camera, it looks much cleaner, and that was actually the worst one out of the two. So let's get this grill on and we'll take a final look.